Hi everyone, welcome to the One Code Camp channel. So in this video, we'll explore database management using MySQL or MySQL Workbench. So we'll cover essential SQL commands like create table and insert into, all within the user-friendly interface of MySQL Workbench. So whether you're a beginner or you want to enhance your SQL skills, this video simplifies table design and data insertion. So let's go and build robust database schemas and take your data management skills to the next level. Let's get started.
Okay, so now let's go ahead and get started. Now let's open our MySQL Workbench. We're going to use this as we learn SQL queries and SQL statements. And to begin, once you're done opening your MySQL Workbench, kindly go and select your local instance. And then I'm going to input my password here. So there you go, and hit enter. Once you're inside your local instance, you can see that when you click schemas, you will see here 3 schemas. Now don't be confused. Database and schemas are synonymous, but they are not the same, because database is a collection of interrelated data, while schemas is the logical representation of that database. So I'm just going to choose one schema here. Let me go ahead with Sakila. I'm just going to click that, or click this arrow. And as you can see, in this MySQL Workbench, you will see a query tab at the middle part. Now, this is where we're gonna place in type in our queries. Now, for this tutorial, we're gonna create a table. So as you can see, here in Sakilo, we already have some built-in tables. We have actor, address, and so on and so forth. And I just created this test2 and test_table. Now, let me show you how it's done. And the query, or the SQL statement for creating a table, is simply create table. That's it. That's the SQL statement that we're going to use to create the table. Now, what's next? We're going to input the table name. So I'm going to name this created table, or let me just give it, let's say students. There you go. So I'm going to create a table that has a name students. Now, these students should have columns, right? So the first column would be an ID. So let's say the first column is called ID, and it's gonna have an integer as its data type. Now, as you can observe, when we create a table, we started with a statement, create table, and then followed by the table name. And then we're gonna follow it up with an open and close parenthesis. And inside this open and close parenthesis, we're gonna add its column. So the first column would be the column name, which is I set it to ID, and then followed by its data type, which is I set into integer. So there are a lot of data types that you can use. There's int, there's text, there's a blob, and we're gonna learn it more as we go through this tutorial. So there you go. So the first column would be ID, int. Then I'm gonna add the first name, another column. That's the second column, which is first name, and I'm gonna give it a data type called varchar. There you go. And there. Next is, so I'm gonna set the value of at least 150. I think there's no name that would reach maximum of 150 characters. I don't know, I just want to set it that way. So yeah, then I'm gonna add another column which is called last name. So the same, a varchar, so it saves a text. It accepts the characters that has 150 as its max length. There you go. Then maybe I'm gonna add gender there. I'm just gonna keep it small letter. And then it's also gonna be a varchar. Just gonna put 10. There you go. I think that's good enough. But if you want to practice SQL, we do recommend for you to add updated at, and then give it a value of date time. It's usually the best practice when you're creating a table. There you go. And also, aside from date, updated time, there's also created at. There you go. And also, it's a date time. But for now, since this is just an example, I'm just going to remove this. There you go. And then, always remember to end your SQL statements with a semicolon. Now, let's go ahead and try that. As you can see, there's no students here. There's no students in the list of tables. And now, if we run this, just click this to run all this line. There you go. Oh, we have an error. So no database selected. So for this, we need to select a database. So for this, I almost forgot to add. Make sure to do this on your queries. Always do put the SQL query use. That means it's going to use or going to indicate which database are we going to use, or are we going to create this table. So use, I'm going to use the Sakila. There you go, and with semicolon, and there you have it. So use Sakila. Let me just interpret this. So this could actually be just one line. I just wanted to place it like this so that it could be more readable. Okay, there you go. Okay, so there we go. And yeah, for this we're going to use, let's just read it line by line. So first we're going to use the Sakila database. There you go. And inside the Sakila database, we're going to create a table called students. And that students table will have the following columns. The first column would be the ID, which would accept a data type of integer. Then we have this second column as named as first name, that will accept a character with 150 maximum of characters. There you go. Then we have last name, and lastly the gender. So there are a lot of data types. You can read more about this on the internet. And there we go. So that's basically the way how to create a table. So it starts with the use by selecting the database, followed by the statement create table, and then the name of the table, then we're going to place an open and close parenthesis. Inside that open and close parenthesis, we're going to indicate its columns. There we go. So let's go ahead and run this again. There you go. As you can see, we have checks here at the bottom. It means it's effective. And if we refresh our schemas, if you check again under Sakila and all its tables, you will see now the students. Now let's go ahead and select that student. So I'm just going to remove this. There you go. I'm just going to leave you Sakila. And then we're going to select or we're going to retrieve actually the students table. And to do that, we're going to use this statement. It's select, then star, it means all. Then from what table? It's students. So it's basically just like that. Select everything. So it's read as select. Here, select. The star is everything. So select everything from which table? Of course, the students. Now, if we run this, there you go. So we have the students table. As you can see, there are the columns. We have the ID, the first name, last name, and the gender that we just created using the create table statement. Now, to add a data in here, we're going to use the insert to statement. This is how you insert data on your table. So again, use Sakila, and then let's remove that one. Let's use the statement insert into. There you go. Then the table name, which is students. There you go. And in here, in the students, we're going to follow it up with an open close parenthesis. Let me just use it this way. And then we're going to indicate its columns that we're going to add value. So the first one is ID. Then we're going to separate it with a comma, followed by first name. As you can see in here, in our students table, we have ID, first name, last name, and gender. So let's copy that one. And then gender. There you go. So the next statement that we're gonna do, which is always followed by insert into, is the statement called values. There you go. And then followed by an open close parenthesis again. Now inside this values, let me just arrange it to make it more cleaner. There you go. So in here, once you insert something into, first is we're gonna indicate where are we gonna insert such data. So we're gonna insert into the students table, and inside the students table, we're gonna insert data in this following columns, which is the ID, the first name, last name, and the gender. Now, what are we gonna insert there? That's why we put the statement values. So basically, if you read this, it's like use the Sakila database and insert into the students table, particularly in the ID, first name, last name, and gender columns, the values so and so. So let's add the values that we need. So for the ID, let's set it to 1. If it's an integer, you don't have to put any quotation marks, just key in the number. And then for the first name, always, if it's a string, always close it with a double or single quotation mark. So let's name it John. And then last name would be, let's say, Doe. And for the gender, let's say it's an M for male. That's it. So if we read this again, it's use Sakila database and then insert into the students table, particularly in the ID, first name, last name, and gender columns, the values 1, John, Doe, and M. That's it. And then always to end your query with a semicolon. Now let's go ahead and run this. There you go. If we scroll this, it says here it checked. It means that it's successful. We affected one row. It means we added something. Now let me just close this one or erase this. We're going to check the students table now. So again, the query to select or to check or retrieve our students table, all you need to do is key in the SQL query or statement, select, and then the star, which is everything. So select everything from students, the students table. Then end with a semicolon. There you go. And then if we run this all, as you can see, we retrieve now the students table, and we have successfully inserted the value. So we have in the ID 1, the first name John, and the last name there's Bill, and then we have the gender into app. Now let's go ahead and try that one again. So as you can see, you can input a lot of statements in here. So we're gonna run it all. So again, the statement or the SQL statement for inserting a data in your table is just using the insert into statement, and then name of the table, which is students, followed by its column name. So we have ID. Let me show you that it could really be run in one line only, but to make it not confusing, I just showed it that way. So let me show you again. So we have ID, then first name, then last name, and then gender. And then we're gonna add its values, remember? So insert into is always followed by values. There we have the values, and inside these values are always end a statement with a semicolon. Okay, so that we avoid errors and it won't read it as one line, because if there's no semicolon, the system will read it as one line. Okay, so there you go. We have the value. So let's add the ID. For ID, it's gonna be 2, of course. And then for the first name, I'm gonna name it what's a good name? I mean, Celine. I think that's good. And then for the last name, of course, it's a string, so it's enclosed with a double quotation mark. There you go. Celine, let's say Smith. Then the gender would be F. Let's say just something like that. Now let's run this code. So first, it's gonna use the Sequela database or schema, and then it's gonna insert into the students table in this particular columns the values provided here, and then we're gonna select the students table so that it would show up the result in here. Now let's go ahead and run all of these lines. There you go. So it's inserted, and then we just selected it. And if you can check our table here, the representation, you will see now that the ID2, first name Celine, Smith, F, are added to another row, to a single row inside our table, our students table. So basically that's it. That's one good thing about this workbench, because you can really see what's inside your data. You can check your database and so on and so forth. This is really a good help for those who's trying to learn SQL. So yeah, that's basically it. That's how you create your table and insert a data to your table using SQL queries and using those statements. Okay, so always remember to create a table, use create table statement followed by the table name, and then the column name and its data type, then another column name, then data type, and so on and so forth, separated by comma. There you go. So that's how you create a table. And to insert a data into your table, use the statement insert into, then which table name are you gonna insert those function in particular column there. And then of course, don't forget to add the values that you're gonna insert. So there you go. And so basically that's it. And always start your SQL queries with the use method or the use statement, so that you will notify the system that you're using that particular database or schema. And then another bonus query, which is select, then the star, which is all, select all from then the table name. So that's how you retrieve your data. And basically that's the wrap. Let's call it the end. So basically that ends our tutorial, and hope to see you guys in our next videos. Thanks for watching.